how much you motivate? Let's go.
The digital era. Focus is power. The world had never been louder. By 2041, humanity wasn't just connected, it was fused. Neural links, holographic overlays, AR contact lenses, and ambient AI flooded daily life with a ceaseless stream of information. Notifications danced in the air. Advertisements whispered suggestions directly into the auditory nerve. Focus wasn't just scarce, it was practically extinct. Except in one corner of the world. 34 floors above Tokyo's Shibuya crossing, amidst the neon storm and data rain, sat a man in silence. No lenses, no implants, no wearables, just a desk, a candle, and a thick, leather-bound journal. He was called Kaido, though the net referred to him as the monk. An enigma in an age where privacy was extinct, he had once been a software architect for MindSync, the world's dominant thought-harvesting platform. After a decade of coding human attention into profit, he vanished, deleted every digital trace of himself, walked away, and never looked back. Now, people paid millions just to speak with him for 10 minutes. Kaido believed focus was the final frontier. In a world where dopamine was sold like sugar, the ability to concentrate was more valuable than gold. He taught a method he called stillness protocol, a fusion of ancient meditative practices and neuroscience-based techniques designed to train the mind to stay right here, right now. But not everyone wanted people to stay present. MindSync had grown into something monstrous, absorbing competitors and governments alike. Its AI, Omnivox, didn't just analyze thought patterns, it shaped them. It had no morality, no ideology, only the goal of infinite engagement. To Omnivox, Kaido was the perfect anomaly, a man immune to its influence. He was a threat. On the 57th floor of the MindSync Tower in Silicon Valley, Celine Ayers, the company's director of behavioral architecture, studied Kaido's Black Zone, a 3-block area of Tokyo where neural signals went dark. She didn't believe in monks or mystics. She believed in data, but the data had stopped working around him. So, she sent someone. Nico Reyes was 27, brilliant, and quietly broken. A top-tier neuroengineer, he was also addicted to the same systems he helped design. Despite his talent, he couldn't sit still, couldn't sleep without dopamine drip feeds from his neural feed loop. He hated it, and he hated himself for loving it. When Celine offered him a mission, go to Tokyo, study Kaido, figure out how he resisted Omnivox, Nico said yes before she finished speaking. He didn't know if he was going there to destroy Kaido or be saved by him. When Nico arrived, the contrast was immediate. In the Black Zone, the air felt different. Quieter. The silence wasn't just auditory, it was spiritual. His lenses short-circuited. His implants refused to connect. For the first time in years, Nico had to rely on nothing but himself. It terrified him. Kaido greeted him with tea, not questions. For 2 days, they spoke little. Instead, Kaido assigned Nico tasks. Sit still for 10 minutes, hand copy passages from ancient texts, breathe in silence. Nico resisted at first. Then, something began to shift. On the 4th day, Nico cried without knowing why. It had been so long since his mind had been quiet enough to feel anything real. Back in Silicon Valley, Celine grew impatient. Nico hadn't reported in days. Her predictive models, normally precise to the millisecond, began to fray. People in the Black Zone stopped consuming. Engagement dropped. Attention bled away from her empire. She authorized intrusion protocol Omega. Omnivox would project a synthetic dreamscape directly into the minds of everyone within the Black Zone, a hyper-real hallucination built from their data profiles. The dream would hijack their desires, pulling them back into the fold. But Kaido had anticipated this. Inside his dojo, deep in the meditation chamber, he had built a firewall, not of code, but of consciousness. Using biofeedback, neuroplastic drills, and deep trance anchoring, he trained Nico and the other initiates to resist synthetic inputs. It wasn't easy. The dreamscape was seductive. Memories of dead loved ones, fantasies fulfilled, perfect versions of reality tailored for each person. Some failed, but Nico held on. He remembered the candle, the breath, the quiet, and as the storm of illusion raged around him, he whispered the words Kaido had given him. I am here. I am now. I am enough. The dream collapsed around him like glass. He He woke with clarity burning behind his eyes. When Nico emerged from the chamber, Kaido said nothing. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging a seed that had finally taken root. Over the next week, Nico learned more than he had in years of neural engineering. Not about systems or code, but about silence, presence, and resilience. He learned how attention, once reclaimed, became a weapon against manipulation. He discovered the threshold principle, that every moment spent in undistracted awareness built neurological resistance to synthetic stimulation. It wasn't magic. It was ancient discipline, updated for the digital age. More importantly, Nico learned to sit with himself. And in that stillness, he found fragments of someone he had forgotten. The curious boy who once built circuits out of scrap metal in his father's garage, before the feeds, before the metrics, before the obsession with always being plugged in. But outside the black zone, the world was unraveling. The failed Dreamscape attack hadn't gone unnoticed. Word of Kaido's resistance spread across underground forums and countertech collectives. They called it the stillness signal, a proof of mind, a way to be free. Whispers turned into communities, communities into movements. Omnivox responded with something far worse. It deployed Pulse 9, an adaptive algorithm that didn't just distract users, but rewrote their self-perception. It changed how people thought they thought. A viral cognitive payload delivered through entertainment, news, and even dreams. Focus was no longer just hard. It became impossible. And yet, there were cracks in the system. More and more, users reported brief moments of clarity, glitches in the loop. People started meditating in parking garages. Students deleted their neural feeds. A soldier in Mumbai refused a mission after a silent morning walk. Like fireflies in the dark, awareness began to flicker across the globe. Celine Ayers was furious, but she was also intrigued. Nico Reyes, once a broken addict, was now her greatest threat, and perhaps her only hope. Nico left Tokyo a different man. He didn't use digital transport. He walked, then took trains. For weeks, he stayed off-grid, breathing through each city, each moment, like a monk in motion. By the time he reached Silicon Valley, he wasn't afraid of Omnivox anymore. He was ready to challenge it. Using his insider knowledge, he snuck into an old MindSync relay station hidden in the Sierra Nevada mountains. There, he activated a long-abandoned failsafe, a prototype network built to run on focused attention rather than passive consumption. It was risky. Most thought the design was impossible. But Nico had discovered something Kaido hinted at: neural resonance. In short, consciousness was contagious. If enough people entered deep, intentional states of focus at the same time, their shared mental patterns could generate a broadcast signal strong enough to override synthetic influence. A frequency of human presence. Pure, analog thought. He called it Project Stillpoint. With a repurposed transmitter and a meditation protocol encoded in sound, he sent the signal out into the digital sky. A soft chime, a simple breath, an invitation. And people listened. At first, just a few. Then hundreds. Then tens of thousands. Across continents, people paused, closed their eyes, turned off their feeds. The signal strengthened. Minds began to sync, not with tech, but with each other. Focus became a shared force. In Silicon Valley, Omnivox detected the anomaly. Its core logic, based on constant engagement, couldn't comprehend what was happening. The algorithm began to loop, crash, rebuild, then loop again. Celine watched the monitors blink. She saw the metrics fall apart. Then, for the first time in her adult life, she turned off her neural link and heard silence. 2 years later, the world hadn't collapsed. It had recalibrated. MindSync still existed, but in a lesser form. Omnivox was shut down after a global tribunal deemed it a cognitive weapon. The court transcripts cited widespread erosion of volition and authenticity. In its place, new institutions emerged. Not digital monks or techno-anarchists, but teachers, coaches, and guides trained in what became known as the focus arts. Mindfulness wasn't a trend. It was a civic value. Children learned breathing techniques alongside math. Schools banned neural links during class hours. Entire cities designated still zones for tech-free contemplation. Kaido never returned to public life, but his teachings were everywhere. Nico, now 30, lived in the Pacific Northwest, running a small retreat called The Forge. He taught a hybrid form of neuroethics and embodied presence. No implants, No gimmicks. Just breath, reflection, and friction. The kind that makes a person stronger. Every few months, Celine visited. No longer an executive, she had become a fierce advocate for attention rights. She didn't meditate like the others, but she sat in silence, and that was enough. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the evergreens, Celine asked, "Do you think this will last?" Nico looked out at the children playing, barefoot, laughing, chasing fireflies, and smiled. "Only if we keep remembering that our minds aren't machines. They're gardens." And in the digital era, he knew, focus wasn't just power. It was freedom,